The previous videos have demonstrated that animals have innate capacities for morality and moral agency, including emotional capacities such as the ability to act out of care and empathy, and mental capacities such as the ability to recognize fairness and reciprocation, use reasoning, and goal-directed decision-making. They demonstrated that animal groups and societies have social rules that individuals choose to follow for the sake of harmony, fairness, cooperation, and for the benefit of youngsters in the group. They have territorial rules and cooperate to defend territories and residents, even across species. They learn social and moral rules from social role models and leaders in their group. And they learn moral responsibilities to their moral circle. This video will demonstrate how these capacities cross the species barrier, how moral rules and moral circles are flexible and changing, how individuals learn the social rules and moral codes of human societies and act morally towards individuals of other species. A moral circle refers to the group of entities, people, animals, etc., that an individual considers worthy of moral concern and inclusion in their moral considerations. Just as moral behavior and moral rules are learned, so are moral circles. This learning can begin from birth. Youngsters bond with whoever raises them, regardless of their species. Every individual from every species is born needing others, both emotionally and in order to learn how to live and survive. Youngsters learn everything from their elders, from how to survive to social roles and responsibilities. They learn their moral circle, their roles, their responsibilities, even if their learning comes from another species. The ability of social animals to learn the rules of social groups is what enabled humans to domesticate them. Animals live and survive in human societies, either by cooperating with humans or by learning and following rules of human societies. The evolution of cooperation has often crossed the species, and the ability to cooperate with other species is seen across the animal kingdom, where different species cooperate to defend themselves and their territories from shared predators. Morality and moral circles evolve through cooperation, and acts of morality and moral circles can cross the species. The capacity for different species to cooperate with each other has shaped modern civilization. The history of human society is also a story of animals, because animals have helped humans every step of the way. Beginning tens of thousands of years ago, well before human settlements and civilizations, when wolves and humans formed groups that helped humans survive. The tale of dogs and humans began roughly between 20,000 to 40,000 years ago when our hunter-gatherer ancestors encountered the gray wolf. This era marked the beginning of a symbiotic relationship between the two species, with each contributing to the other's survival and prosperity. Scientists believe the domestication process was initiated by the wolves themselves. Researchers observing the social lives of wolves over many generations found that wolves and humans have similar moral systems. Both humans and wolves prioritize family, care for the elderly, and thrive on harmony and ritual. We both appoint leaders and use our individual talents for the good of the family or in our work. Old and wounded family members are brought food and never abandoned. Every member of the pack knows where his place is. For family, wolves will sacrifice their lives. Since these first interactions, wolves and dogs have helped humans through many stages of survival. Dogs helped humans survive in the Arctic through the Ice Age, more than 10,000 years ago. The capacity to bond with familiar individuals has been demonstrated by researchers who found that 23-week-old wolves became attached to individuals and showed attachment behaviors toward humans comparable to those of dogs. Our findings demonstrate that the ability to form attachment with humans exists in relatives of the wild ancestor of dogs. Throughout history, these relationships have always been present. The ability to show loyalty, empathy, and a sense of responsibility towards individuals of different species demonstrates that moral circles are a cross-species phenomenon. These moral circles were essential for human survival and evolution. When we examine the evolution of moral circles throughout history, it becomes clear that it's not simply a matter of humans versus other species. Early humans teamed up with dogs to defend themselves not just from predators, but from other humans. Dogs and humans formed groups that fought intertribal conflicts. Evidence suggests that Neolithic men from neighboring tribes were prepared to brutally fight and kill each other in order to capture and secure women. In these early days, dogs acted as living alarm systems, warning humans of potential danger from predators or enemy tribes. Neolithic tribes probably competed for territory, as well as scarce resources such as food and shelter. While humans were fighting each other, evidence shows that dogs were valued members of their groups, who, apart from being buried next to them, were fed a similar diet to humans. From keeping human tribes alive through the Ice Ages to helping them migrate around the world and protecting early settlements, dogs were essential to the survival and evolution of human groups. While early dogs defended humans in their group from other humans, to this day, dogs protect humans, their territory, and their property from other human beings. To this day, they protect vulnerable humans from predators, and this includes human predators. From the early days of tribal groups, to early human civilization, to modern society, animals have learned and adapted to the changing rules of human societies. Because of their ability to learn rules from dominance in their own groups, Horses were able to adapt to new rules introduced by humans when the process of domestication began around 4,000 years ago. Horses may have played a bigger role in shaping human society than any other factor. Horses changed the course of human history, bringing new possibilities through travel, labor, and warfare. And again, the battle was not just man against nature, but horse and man against man. Early armies with horses conquered populations, seizing slaves and using them for labor. Human slavery was considered an essential part of civilization. The legal ownership of humans and animals began with civilization, and both human beings and domesticated animals could be chattel or property. The ownership of human beings was considered moral for most of human civilization. Moral codes change with every era, and groups included in or excluded from moral circles change over time, even across species. In early societies, while some humans were owned as slaves and property, some animals were revered and worshipped. In ancient Egypt, cats were so special that those who killed them, even by accident, were sentenced to death. Killing a dog was also a capital crime. Dogs were thought to act as companions and guides to humans in the afterlife. One of the oldest and most respected gods, the dog-headed Anubis, was known as the dog that swallows millions, in reference to his role in judging the dead. In the middle of the first millennium CE, cow killing was made a capital offense by the Gupta kings, and legislation against cow killing persisted into the 20th century. The moral rules of societies are always changing, and right and wrong take different forms in society through different eras. For better or for worse, individuals learn to follow the rules of the society they are in. Both humans and animals have adapted to the rules of human societies over the eras. And both humans and animals contributed to the societies we live in today. Horses and oxen changed the face of agriculture, cities, and transport. Hundreds of thousands of horses fought in wars against other humans that contributed to the society we live in today. And to this day, horses following human rules uphold the rules of society. To this day, horses work with humans to enforce rules against other humans. Animals have not just learned to follow rules and responsibilities of human society. They have played a crucial role in upholding these rules. Countless animals have contributed to human society. From the dogs rescuing people from natural disasters, and the rats alerting people to landmines and dangerous diseases, to the pigeons carrying life-saving messages through war zones, and the seals rescuing lost divers, guarding ships against enemy divers, locating mines, and retrieving equipment. The many ways animals have contributed their unique intelligence to help human beings is seen in the many different situations in which animals have helped them. Seals have rescued humans who have fallen into the ocean by helping them swim to shore. They have rescued humans from shark attacks and from suicide attempts. Dogs have saved humans from stroke, fire, drowning, avalanche, car accidents, getting lost, falls, snakes, bears, kidnapping, seizures, and heart attacks. They have saved babies in house fires by lying on top of them, saved people from road rage incidents by jumping in between them, and walked for miles to get help for injured hikers. These heroic stories of animals rescuing humans are found across the species, from horses to pigs, cats, monkeys, rats, gorillas, and dolphins. Amazingly, dolphins will help drowning sailors by keeping them afloat. Dogs will regularly check up on people just to make sure they are okay. Most people who have lived with a dog know that dogs often realize when we're in distress and will make attempts to comfort us. Research has shown that not only do animals pick up on our emotions, they also have mental representation of our emotional state and will take action to help human beings in emotional distress or in physical trouble. Animals are moral agents, in both the sense that they act morally towards us and that they learn and follow the rules of society. Yet animals are legally excluded from our moral circle, based on the idea that they have no moral agency. Philosophers have claimed that only humans are moral agents because only humans are capable of making moral choices. Their argument hinges on the idea that humans possess moral rights due to their moral responsibilities, a concept that does not apply to animals. However, animals in human civilization do have responsibilities. They have learned to follow rules because they know the consequences of breaking them. Animals in human society do act out of moral responsibility by following rules and falling into line. And animals who don't are held accountable. Moral agency is an individual's ability to make moral choices based on some notion of right and wrong and be held accountable for these actions. The concept of agency is inseparable from the concept of responsibility, and hence from the concepts of praise and blame. If animals are moral agents, they are responsible for what they do, and so can be praised or blamed for this. Because they act morally towards us, animals who are physically capable of causing us great harm coexist peacefully with us. Because they have morality, we have moral obligations to them. Animals are owed a certain kind of respect that they wouldn't be owed if they couldn't act morally. The idea that we have no moral responsibility to animals in human societies because they have no moral responsibilities is false. Throughout the history of civilization, animals living in human societies have had huge responsibilities. In fact, animals have been responsible for much of the progress of human society. And much of human civilization was built on the backs of animals. Yet the majority of animals still have no legal rights or protection, which is justified by the notion that they have no morality. Many philosophers have made significant efforts to refute the existence of morality and moral agency in animals. Morality has long been understood as a feature that distinguishes humanity from the rest of the animal kingdom. It is not uncommon to find authors who use this distinguishing characteristic as a basis for denying moral rights to animals. Early philosophers frequently reference religious doctrines, which implied that God created animals to serve the needs of humans. However, these beliefs were distinct from scientific evidence or the principles of evolutionary biology, which have shown that humans are not the only species to boast a moral code, and that morality is separate from God and religion. Instead, it's related to what ethologists call the prosocial tendencies of primates and other animals, a self-awareness and awareness of others that gives rise to emotional responses like reconciliation, empathy, and consolation. Available empirical evidence for animal morality strongly suggests that being human is not a necessary condition for being humane. In many species, when an infant is orphaned, surviving adults of the group will commonly adopt the orphan and raise him with as much affection as they do their biological offspring. Perhaps most convincing, however, are not cases of other animals merely helping each other, but cases in which individuals sacrifice their own interests in order to help others. Whales will place their bodies in between whaling ships and a harpooned whale. Macaques were fed only if they pulled a chain which caused an electric shock to be delivered to an unrelated macaque who was in plain view through a one-way mirror. If they refused to pull the chain, they starved. Most monkeys routinely refused to pull the chain. The relative social status or gender of the animals was irrelevant to their willingness to inflict pain on others. Macaques who knew what it felt like to be shocked from prior experiments were even less willing to pull the chain and shock another macaque. Rats and pigeons, subjected to the same experiment, had the same response. Who seems to be more moral? A human who begrudgingly does the right thing only out of a sense of duty, or a macaque who chooses to starve for weeks rather than harm another macaque? The macaque experiments permit us to glimpse in non-humans a saintly willingness to make sacrifices in order to save others, even those who are not close kin. By conventional standards, these macaques, who have never gone to Sunday school, never heard of the Ten Commandments, seem exemplary in their moral grounding and their courageous resistance to evil. Experiments on morality and obedience to authority in human beings, conducted by Yale University psychologist Stanley Milgram, explored morality versus obedience to authority by having participants administer electric shocks to other human beings based on instructions from an authority figure. A significant percentage of participants obeyed the authority figure and administered the maximum level of shocks, despite their apparent discomfort. The study demonstrated that ordinary people are surprisingly likely to obey authority figures even when those orders conflict with their own moral beliefs. Learning and obeying the social rules of a society is not the same as acting morally. When we examine historical laws, we find that many are viewed as immoral by today's standards. Genuine moral behavior is motivated by empathy, and both human and non-human animals have innate neural and physiological mechanisms for empathy. Recordings of the cingulate cortex, the very region thought to underpin empathy in humans, showed that rats observing others in pain activated the very neurons in the cingulate cortex that also became active when the rat experienced pain himself. If you see yourself in others, then who can you harm? Treat others as you would treat yourself. Some of the earliest ethical teachings central to the tenets of religions, such as Buddhism and Christianity, have neural foundations in the brains of both human and non-human animals. At around 2 years old, children will start to show empathy and an understanding that others have feelings and are sentient. Most children instinctively see other animals as fellow sentient beings. And because of their innate neurological mechanisms for empathy, seeing animals being hurt hurts them. Animals have the same recognition of others, particularly those they are raised with, as sentient beings. And moral actions toward them are motivated by this recognition, such as the motivation to help them, console them, or at the very least, not inflict pain on them. Animals also have the capacity to break rules that conflict with these moral motivations. During World War II, when horses were instructed to trample civilians, they refused to follow orders. A Holocaust survivor recalls, "They came with the horses and they tried to run into us, but the horses didn't want to. It's amazing, the horses would not go on us. They kept standing up." The innate ability to empathize comes from the innate ability to recognize others as being like us. But this innate ability can be bypassed. The neuroscience of objectification has been well studied. When we look at sentient beings with agency, and when we look at objects, we activate different parts of the brain. Our minds have the ability to perceive others as objects by mentally stripping them of autonomy or agency. We use the same mental mechanisms to morally disengage from other groups or individuals, whether human or non-human. Human slavery was morally justified through claims of natural inferiority, religious interpretations, and economic necessity. The practice of branding would have served to dehumanize slaves, placing them on par with animals and indicating ownership. The same justifications persist for the legal status of animals. Yet attempts to reduce animals to unfeeling, unthinking, immoral beings have not stood up to scientific evidence. The father of Western philosophy, Descartes, fundamentally excluded animals from our moral circle by claiming they were fundamentally different from humans. Descartes' notion that animal life is characterized by mindless brutality and immorality has been shown to be false. Nature has examples of both brutality and cooperation. care, compassion, and democracy, but the lines are not drawn by species. All of these examples exist in both human and non-human societies. And they are flexible and changing. The claim that animals lack morality was not based on evidence. Rather, it stemmed from a self-serving desire to absolve any moral responsibility towards them, as Descartes himself admitted, writing, "My view is not so much cruel to beasts, but respectful to human beings, whom it absolves from any suspicion of crime whenever they kill animals." Humans have a moral responsibility to animals in society because they brought them into society. Intervening and breaking up their groups, cultures, territories, and autonomy, and their ability to defend and protect both themselves and each other. We have found many contexts, including routine procedures in farms, labs, and in our homes, where humans potentially interfere with, hinder, or destroy the moral capabilities of animals. Farm animals are not the only class of animals under human care that are often exposed to the distress of conspecifics. Lab animals, too, will frequently find themselves in similar situations, subjected to conspecifics going through procedures, all of which frequently cause pain or distress to the subjects and will most likely be prevented from interfering. Evidence show that rodents undergo emotional contagion when in the presence of a conspecific in distress, and that, when given the choice, they will help or engage in affiliative behavior directed at a distressed individual. While evidence shows that lab animals will replay their abuse in nightmares, this behavior also occurs in rats who were not themselves physically abused, but who instead were forced to watch other rats being tortured through a transparent barrier. Rats, it seems, dream not only of their own suffering, but also of that of their friends. The industrial use of animals in society not only thwarts their moral capabilities, but also inflicts on them the emotional distress of having these capabilities thwarted.